What is up, guys? It is Wednesday, October 2nd. Wanted to give you some ideas real quick because very quickly I am going to be all about this and I want to keep myself in check. A lot of people are talking about a market crash. Um, so let's look at some of the possibilities today, and I want to just kind of teach you a little bit about what I look for in swing trades mostly. All right, so this is the SPY, SPY. I've got clean charts here. Don't have any of my lines. I just want to run this through you real quick and see what's going on. So let's say first, let's go into the monthly view here. That looks pretty climactic, right? We have our, if you're new to the stock group, you might not have seen any videos like this before, but we talked about some similarities of 2020 or sorry, 2000, 2008, and 2022, and now we're plenty above that. So let's talk about what everybody's talking about, this market crash idea. From the monthly chart, let's see if we can come up with anything that would tell us if we're going to have a market crash because of the Iran war or the ports or any of that stuff here. Let's see. Oh, let me turn my magnet off here. So it looks like we're kind of just making stair steps, and we have yet to retest this one, right? So let's just say for some reason there was a true market correction. Where would be the buy area? It would be this 480 area and probably a little bit below it. Getting below 480 would be pretty crazy by the end of the year, unless we had a supply chain issue like we did with this here. I don't really foresee that happening, but you never know, right? So let's be a little realistic here. So SP has been on a tear since it broke out of this downtrend. 2022 broke out. It retested the trend line, so it had plenty of gas to go higher. It came up short of the prior high, which means, if you've been following me, if they come up short of a high, then they're likely going to break it, right? So we're there. We saw this coming. We actually bought this. If you've been around since 2023, we called the bottom here. Let's take a look at some things on the monthly chart. First of all, there's a gap right here. That would be interesting to come back and retest. So we'll keep that on our charts here. Let's see. Let's do this. Right. All right. So let's start counting some reasons here. We've got one reason, retest the prior high. Two reasons, there's a gap, right? But then we start getting into this, what they call the fair value gap theory. And you could say, so there are two reasons to retest that, because typically what will happen is they will retest prior breakout areas, but there are other things at play. So this here, oh, it wasn't supposed to be there, but let me try this again. This candle right here is a breakup candle, right? Bulls obviously want to defend it. Bears obviously want to close below it. That would be the goal of a breakup candle. In fair value gap theory, there is a gap between the candle before it and the candle after it. And if you are bullish, you will trade higher off of that gap, right? You see what I'm talking about? The gap here from this candle's high to this candle's low, there's a gap, right? It's the same as an actual gap, but it's just in a candle form. So what happened here? They came down, they retested that gap, they defended it, they closed candles on the top half of it, which is extremely bullish. They didn't even get to the bottom, right? So they defended it, closed candles in the top half and pushed it higher and closed above this breakdown candle and kept going. Now let's see where we are after that. We have another gap from this candle's high to this candle's low. There is a gap there. And what happened? They retested it. They actually broke below it, but they closed the month, we're on monthly, back above it, right? They came down to try it one more time the following month. This would have been September, and they couldn't even get to the gap. So what does that tell us? That tells us that it is still bullish, right? Now, are we creating a new gap? So we also have a swing high right here, right? Because this high, if we get away from the monthly chart, you'll see this easier. But so let's mark off this high right here. And I'll go ahead and use my magnet tool for that. So this high, what did they do? They came back down and retested the high within like a cent or two, and they bounced. That is a sign of bullishness still. So, on the monthly chart, the largest chart that we have, everything is still bullish, right? So let's go down to the weekly chart. So the weekly chart, we see that high, right? They came up short of the high and then broke above it. They came back to retest and bounced, right? Now, this week is not closed yet. So you cannot use that to trade off of. So let's look for other things to trade off of. Okay, so remember that's monthly. So let's use a different color, blue, for weekly. How about? We have a fair value gap from here, this candle high, to this candle's low. And we'll change that to blue, or whatever color that is, teal. And we will see that currently, now the week isn't over yet, currently they are defending that gap. That would be bullish, right? And it is Wednesday right now. We have 2 more trading days to close below this gap. So that is going to be our kind of line in the sand, is this candle's high. So this candle, the high of this candle was 563.03, right? Let's write line in the sand, right? Whatever. Okay, so this red line is going to be the line in the sand. If they close the week below that, let's do if then. If they close below that, then what are they going to try to do? They are going to try to... Where did my pen go? I'm so bad at this. If they close below this on the weekly chart, let's say they close down here, right? Then where is their next target? All the way down here, right? This would be the next target. That's a long target. Actually, their first target would be this candle's low, and then their next target would be this low, right? So what would that look like if we were to draw it? We'd have like, that was horrible. That was horrible, guys. So let's say this closed below that candle. Oof. Struggling tonight. Let's say this was a red candle. Right. Okay, so let's say the week ended like that. Don't worry, I'm going to get this. It doesn't matter. Right? If we close below that, then what happens? Now we have a new fair value gap right here, and they would have to defend this area yet again to push lower. So they would come up, retrace this area at some point, and then they would shoot down here, and ultimately they would shoot for this gap, this fair value gap, right? That's 2 weeks ahead. If we were going to have a market crash, that's how it would start. We would close this week below whatever this candle was. What was this? 563.03, I think. High of this candle was 563.03. Okay. If we are bullish, we don't really have to do much at all, except defend at least 50% of this, which would also be this high. If we close the week above this, then we can continue higher. So just wanted you to kind of keep that in mind. I'm not necessarily bearish yet until we close a week below that. We have some news this week, so we'll see what that does. But as for right now, we're still doing all right. So looking at the daily chart, again, same thing. They're still defending this. I don't expect them to just rip off of this quite yet. I feel like they could spend some more time in this gap. But again, staying above the 563.03. I'm going to change this for myself here. 563.03. Staying above that is going to be bullish for another leg higher, right? Now, that's fair value gap theory. Let's take a look at the Qs, because that, interestingly, did not follow SPY. It's weaker than SPY, right? Because SPY went down, came up, bounced, and then broke the high, right? Well, the Q's high is right here. And we're far from that, right? Now, you could argue they're coming up short because they plan to break it, very simply. So let's say the QQQ, because this is what I'm looking to short going into this week. If we do get some bad news, let's see where would be the buy area for long-term swings and investments. I want to show you this other theory I have, where you mark off places that have sold and places that have been bought that are from the same area. So let's start with bullish first. Let's see this large move here from right here all the way up to here, right? Now let's see if that is also served right here. Went from there up to there, right? From here, you could argue that this gap up from there, and then they gapped up to there, right? So in theory, coming back down to here would be an area of interest to buy, to push back up to here, right? So let's mark off those in green, the highs and the lows. We'll make these green. just to be safe. Okay, now, so those are your buy areas. So your buy area would be 455 on the Qs, right? I mean, it can bounce other places. It's also bounced from, but see, none of these other places have really sold much. There's a buyer from here to here, and then another one from the similar area from there to there. I don't know. It's just, that's just not quite as clean. So I don't like that one. Let's ignore that one for now. We can keep in mind that that's an area, but so we have our long swing areas marked off, right? Now we can mark off our short areas the exact same way. So let's switch this to red. So where did it also start selling from and end? Kind of the same spots, right? Like from here down to here. So you have this red candle here down, and then you had buying pressure come back up. So we're going to say it's here. We had a Sunday gap that's not really important. And then you also have, see, that quite didn't get as high, but you could argue that actually, let's zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about here. Actually, the move, the swing move, was truly from this candle right here. So let's do that. So from that candle down to that, the end of the bottom of the body of the candle, right? That's where the sellers stopped selling. So they started selling here, they stopped selling down here, right? So this would be the same way from there down to the bottom of that candle where it stopped. Do you see how there's like these spaces, right? And the first one might be jagged. The second one's going to be more smooth. The third one will be the smoothest. So let's say from here, just to be safe, this area should sell down to here, right? So we can mark those off. Now your highs are kind of debatable. I guess you could actually say this high would really be, you could say that was the sell area, but we'll just say, to be safe, this area is where an institutional seller takes the market from that place to this place, right? So the idea for this week is, it's Wednesday. We might already be in here, but I kind of feel like what they want to do is come back up, have another green day, and then from there we can look for our swing short on the Qs, which would coincide with SPY again closing below that fair value gap. Of course, that's just a guess right now. We have to see what it does in between 484.26 and 485.60. Let's watch the Qs and see what it does there, right? Hopefully that was helpful. I don't know if it is or not. So this is kind of where I get my lines from. You can also use 4-hour charts to be a little more accurate. So actually, let's go ahead and do that. So look how this red line, see where the top of that pre-market candle was, and then see where the body of this candle was. So it's actually up just a little bit. So 484.39. See how that touched there? And then that was the body of this reversal candle and how it touched there. So we want to look and see, and now here on the 4-hour chart, you have another fair value gap here, which would be from, again, this candle low to this candle high, makes a gap, right? And we want it to be in the bottom half of this if we want to push lower. So they could push lower off of this if the Qs come up to that 484.39 and start to push lower. We're going to know to look for a large move down. From there down to, let's see where this candle stopped. That would be your bottom. 448.89. That's going to be your swing move down if we start doing that. You can also see how this reacted here. So they just sold off and then just gapped over it. That's how they started a new bull trend, right? How this was becoming support here. And if you go over here, you'll probably see where they started getting in. Look at that. Look at that, right? Prior resistance became support, right? So you know that level is important. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at there. You want to try to mess with NVIDIA, you can do that too. Let's see, this one might be kind of new, but it wouldn't have quite the move as the Qs. Okay, well anyway, see from that peak there to the bottom of that green candle. And then they kind of did the same thing, moved from there, 120, 121 down to 101, $20 move. So you can see that this in general is a large area. I mean, there's large swings between this. So the sellers are above 121, the buyers are below 100. So you can get some seriously awesome swings out of that, right? Bullish also. But and then again, same thing here, right? See how swing trading works? It's just levels. You just figure out where institutional sellers are and institutional buyers are, and you just trade that. So what's happening to NVIDIA right now? So they came up here, they broke that, but then they immediately got rejected. So what we want to see is, and just like the Qs, it does have a fair value gap. So if we were going to go lower, it would be off of this area. I'm going to tie this up really quick here. So if we were going to go lower, it would be off this area. Now right now they're closing in the top quadrant, so that means it's stronger than the Qs. So that might not be the best one to short NVIDIA. Maybe check out AMD instead. So AMD might be a better move. So AMD I think has a top. I don't think it's going to go any higher than this. So what happened was, what did I always say? A failed breakout is always stronger than the initial breakout, right? So you have this breakout area. They broke out and then they failed. And then they had a larger move down than they had out, right? So this area, according to the fair value gap theory, would be unfair value, anything over this. So there's no reason for them to trade into this area anymore. So see how they're getting rejected off of that area? So if for some reason we were to, I might set an alarm on this one. If for some reason we were to get above, and see how it stopped right there and then it gapped, and they tried to like just gap over it. So let's mark that off here. And let's put an alarm on 163.85. Short AMD. If we cross that, I'll let you guys know. But we might not, because see how this is weaker than NVIDIA? Remember I said there was the fair value gap here. And I am not a specialist on fair value gaps and stuff. I'm just interested in it. But see how AMD only got to about half, or not even half, and then got rejected, and now they're trading below it, right? So you want to see that. That's weakness. So really AMD is going to be our short, and then using our trading swing ideas. So we had a pretty good move down from here to here. Let's see if that played out ever again. We did have this one from here to here. This one was here. It went below it. And then we might have already started this one. From here down to here. I'll mark it off conservatively, would be like the bottom of this candle right here, 140. So again, another $20 move, 160 to 140, and it should move pretty quickly, which would also kind of match up with this trend line. It'd be a reason for the bulls to retest that, right? So look at AMD from like 160 to 163 down to 140, and then if you figure out how many days it'll take, to move through here, it took like 1, 2, 3 days there. This was only 2 days. That was probably earnings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. That took quite a bit of days, but you could put 2 weeks out, and we'll be around 140 again. So, again, back to the cues. We also have taken all this stuff off. Let me just delete everything and start fresh. Remove. Where would be the absolute buy area? If you just look at this chart, just zoom out and just look at it and say, what looks important? You have a gap here, gap here, gap here, a fair value gap here. So let's mark that off. See how that was the high and it gapped up, and here that was the opening candle. So 181 or 481 to 467, they are likely, and see how that was respected there also, there and there. They are likely going to go to 467.90. What's the high of this candle? Or the close, 468. Let's just make it 468 for fun. For ease. I'll just keep saying that over and over. See how this? 468, 468, 468. That one was gapped over it, but that respected 468. Right. So this is your bear bull trend line. 468. So you want it to come back to 468. You want AMD to drop, NVIDIA to drop, and the Qs to drop. And then you want to start looking for a buy underneath it. And before I start screaming, because we're down here below 468 and we're at, 458, and I start screaming, it's the end of the world, you better buy. Because we've also got this area here from our things, right? 458. So look at 468 as the target. 458 is the sell the house all in by the Qs. Because what will happen is, and see how that would also be another reason to come back to 468. But what would happen is retail traders are going to try to buy this and buy the trend line, and then what's going to happen? They're going to get tagged out, and then when they start shorting this, it's going to reverse and go to new highs. And that at 457.84, when that hits, let's do it even closer here, 4-hour chart. See this candle? See if it matches up. Look to the left and see where the buyers are, where the banks are. See this candle? The high of this candle was 458. See that? Up there? 458. That's our number. That is going to be our don't listen to Mark if he says short. Buy it now. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to follow up and we'll see what happens. Okay? I'll leave this on my chart. You guys have a good night. Thanks.